Hi, hello, and welcome back to Complementary Colors. We are going to dive into some amazing things about interior design and the world of the commercial aspect of interior design. And we're excited to share with you some tidbits and some nuggets from our experience. My name is Casey, and I'm here today with Kara.
Hello.
And Melissa.
Hi.
Are you guys ready to dig into our main topic of conversation today?
Born ready.
So ready.
Today we're talking about don't call it a comeback, or as I would like to call it, why is grandma so hot again?
I like the second.
The world of trends and how to handle them. And we will attribute the why is grandma so hot again to our lovely Stephanie Deshays.
That's right.
She inspired that quote, so we want to definitely give her a shout out. But so let's start. What are trends? And why do we follow them?
Loaded question.
Kara, you want to kick us off? You look like you're ready.
Let's do this. I almost just devoured the mic. I was so ready. I think it's the reaction and balance to that mass consumer movement that we would just have, and then we pendulum swing to the next one. But I also think, and this is just personal observation, that it really follows fashion and food trends. I think we easily absorb those changes, so we're prepared for the ones that affect our industry.
So why food?
Why food? Well, I was thinking about like when the OGs, right? Like those settlers. It was like always that
Oregon Trail settlers.
Yeah,
like,
we're there.
Bringing me
We're
back.
there now.
Daniel Boone, David Crockett, all
or
that.
if you're Alaskan, the 80s. But it was like all about, farming and like permaculture, even though they didn't call it that. And really like root cellars, right? And then there was innovation in the food industry, and it became TV dinners and mac and cheese in a box. And you save that time, mama, in the kitchen, and you spend that with your kids. And now we are back. We are back to farm to table.
Are we though? What about meal prepping?
Oh, I still think it's like Whole Foods have been reinvented as like, grandma's so hot right now, right?
Yeah.
Grandma used to have the root cellar. My mom used to be like, TV dinner or a mac and cheese or like cup of noodle, like
fried bologna sandwich.
There was some manufacturing that would give time back to that hard working. And so I just feel like after this farm to table movement, if we don't transition into like the Jetsons pill, I'm going to be highly disappointed in our innovation. I would like to be him. We all know the moment where he's like, the toast was burnt today. As he like takes.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, totally.
Melissa. Try again with the toast. Yeah, I'll add a tidbit. I think that trends, as cool as they are, they're made for our consumer world. Let's be honest. And they're created for the simple fact that we all love novelty. Oh, things get old.
That's true.
We want to refresh. We're sick of looking at one color all the time. What's the next color we could look at? And we're just leaning to someone else to tell us what that should be.
That's true.
And why we follow them is because sociology roots, we all want to fit in, right?
Or we want to be different than our parents. Ooh. I was thinking about that, the mom gene thing.
That's deep psychology right there.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I grew up like Britney Spears, how low can you go until they're not actually on your body? And now like I look at my daughter and I'm like, baby, those are mom jeans and that's hot. Like and now I'm already, buying the high-waisted. So, it happens.
Cycles.
Yeah. Soon enough though, that waistline's going to start dropping. So, just be prepared.
I'm going to float something to you guys that was shocking to me when I was doing some prep for this podcast, and it's called the novelty effect. And I think, Kara, it's really going to speak to you, knowing your personality.
Oh, no.
It's the tendency for an individual to have the strongest stress response for something that is out of the ordinary. And because they have a stress response, essentially they are attracted to that thing that's out of the ordinary. So if they're given like 8 oranges and 1 apple, they're going to pick out the apple because Absolutely. It's like, well, that's the thing that's unique.
Yeah, I mean, just also look up biophilia, the risk and peril parable. Continue.
No, that's a great way to like segue into that. But it's the fact that like as soon as that stress response starts to wear off in our little monkey brains, that we are no longer attracted to that item. So it's the idea that when Brittany was so hot and you were like low as you could go, like that was stressful. And
I'm sorry, Brittany's still hot.
Brittany's will always be hot.
Yes, this is true.
She's like Marilyn in our era. But it's the idea that like it stressed our moms out when we were doing things like that. And I remember my mom telling me that like, you know, jeans were too low or like too tight. I was like, no, Mom, this is what everyone's doing. So it was like almost enticing to us.
Absolutely.
Because it was stressful. And I see that in the design world too.
Absolutely.
When something kind of catches a client off guard, you're like, no, this is
Lean into it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, because it's the alive feeling. Isn't that really what we're all chasing too? Like, I mean, you could bring it all the way back to romantic relationships, whether you call it twitterpation or the honeymoon stage. That first initial change is always like highly stimulating.
I vote twitterpation.
I do too. Thank you, Bambi.
I think you've changed something between a trend follower versus a trend creator.
There is a difference.
So a trend creator thrives off of that stress and thrives off of that. I like to feel edgy and I like to do these other things. The trend followers, there was a different, from the New Science magazine, there was a white paper that I was reading and it asked why people follow trends in general. Because if it was only a stress response that people were attracted to, then everyone would be doing their own thing. But there are those sheep that would like to follow how things are going. And it's the idea that it's a mental shortcut. So the way that our brain creates paths and it's, you know, in its infinite, almost ununderstandable way that our brain functions, we create new paths every time something is new. For people, it's almost safer and easier to follow trends because it's a mental shortcut. If it's already established, if you've seen it a million times and you know that neutrals are the new aesthetic, well, then your brain's going to say, well, I should go neutrals. And that's the easiest way for me to make a decision rather than saying, nope, I really like red. And so that's that difference between the trend followers and the trend trailblazers.
Yeah, we recognize it first, we research it, and then we accept it.
Exactly. So I think you've recognized based off of that difference. And from that, we know that like right now there's this huge push for vintage aesthetic. There's a huge push for unique, but it's almost like being unique is the trend. So we'll start with vintage. Are you into it or are you over it?
I love it.
You're into it?
Yeah. And I'll classify my vintage definition is at least like 50 years old, right? Like it's been through some trends and it's been loved a little, hated a little, and it's just being dusted back off to shine again. That's vintage.
So we're talking like mid-century modern is as far back as it's like, it's where you're starting.
It's just at least 50 years.
Okay.
Yeah. It can be dusted off a couple times.
Man, mine is, it has to be wabi sabi. I think that's what hits me is, and just to throw that definition out, it's the imperfect and incomplete nature of things that we're gravitated to. And it's like the appreciation of that beauty. So wabi sabi is like that brass doorknob or that brass plate that you push and it's always shined right where all the hands go. And then you can see the patina of where it hasn't been touched. There's something comfortable and also like makes me feel wise, like all at the same time whenever there's like something like that. So
unless you hate germs.
So if like something has some wabi sabi character to it, like I see that this is like, so it's like almost like a sacred object.
So it's kind of, have you been to Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
Okay. Have you been to the FDR Memorial?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
But continue.
She has.
I won't spoil it.
I lived in Washington, D.C. three different times, just outside of the city proper. And so I got very familiar with all the different memorials and like they all kind of start to blend together and like they're beautiful and they're amazing. But one of them that always sticks out in my brain is what you're talking about is this wabi sabi is FDR's memorial. It's tucked away in this like almost hidden corner of Washington, D.C. And they have FDR sitting in his armchair, and it's like very comforting and, you know, iconic for all that, you know, he stood for as a president. But what's funny is his dog next to him is made out of copper. Yep, copper. And so everything else about FDR and like the whole setting has turned green, like the Statue of Liberty, except for the dog's head.
Absolutely.
And it is bright and shiny.
Absolutely.
And everyone who goes to the memorial, they can't help but like pet the dog on the head.
Right? It just shows human process. I'm a left-hander. So why I'm like fascinated with this, which was actually brought to attention by a colleague of ours, I started to pay attention to those patinas. I always push left. I'm left-handed. And so you can always see the doors, like most of the populace pushes right? So it just shows you human nature in a split second, which I think is like that backstory that deepens the experience of vintage.
And then you get thrown into a culture that does everything backwards, and you're like, what happened? I just got ran over.
Been there. If you go overseas to a country that does everything on the other side of the road or different ways, it is shocking. But I want to kind of float this out and get like your reaction to it before we dive into my next question for you guys. Is there was a quote that I found that was pretty perfect. It's kind of that wabi sabi, that's that like vintage, are we into it, are we over it? It's from a Victorian Antiques, A Timeless Fascination. And the quote is, there was a romance to the age, and people had the opportunity and the money to invest in beautiful things for their homes. And that these antiques are often exquisitely crafted with ageless appeal. So when we look at things that are of a bygone era, do we over romanticize? And is that why grandma's so hot again?
I don't think we romanticize enough.
Ooh, okay.
To be honest, I think the reason why that romanticizing happens is because there's a story that has been told behind that object, which then can be carried on and given that warm, fuzzy feeling every time it goes down to generation, even it's some trinket that was $2. Right? It's got a history, it's got a story. And so that gives that romanticism that I think that we gravitate towards, especially when we look at, when we get our grandma stuff, right? Like it matters because there's something, at least my grandma, man, she writes literally a note. A note is tucked behind every piece of art, every trinket, like everything has a note explaining when she got it, where she got it, and why she got it, who it came from, like if it was inherited from her grandma. It's really awesome. So I think we need more of that.
More of that humanity connection.
More why.
That's beautiful.
Have you guys listened to the new Taylor Swift Fearless album that she just re-released?
Karma.
Well, no, that's different. She re-recorded her Fearless album.
That one.
And she released a few songs from the vault. And this is all making me think of, she has a new song called Timeless. And it is the romance of a bygone era. The beginning of the song is literally her talking about, like, she walked into an antique shop and she saw a photo from the 40s of like this couple, like on a crowded street in New York City. And it made her want to call her like significant other and be like, I think we would have been timeless at the time. So she like hyper romanticized walking into an antique shop and like seeing those vintage things that like are forgotten, and they weren't even her memories,
right? But
it wasn't her story to share, but it became her story.
It was the ignition to her story. It ignited that part in her that is like purpose searching, which, talk about the era we are in. Like, again, I'm speaking from the mother of children that are like, 18, 21. I guess those aren't children anymore. They're children to me. But I would just say that, nothing is done without like a direct purpose, integrity, and like it creates more than it is because there's too much option and too much like choice that they have to like almost signify every single thing they do, that I can see how something that already intrinsically has a story built into it is not, I'm not saying a shortcut, but almost like reminds them, well, this is the path to take. Like, this is what will create purpose in the sea of choices.
So it almost helps them find meaning through other people's stories.
Absolutely.
Or clarify something they already were kind of on the fence on.
Yeah.
We have so many paths every single day that something could be that signal, right?
Yeah.
To be like, yes, Thank you, universe. I'll do that.
I think that's a really great segue actually in talking about the different generations, especially Kara, in your household. Like you have 5-year-old twins and these amazing like 18-year-old adult and 21-year-old adults that were, you know, our children in your mind. But it's what's next? How do we plan for the next generation of consumers? And before we like get into it, I wanted to talk to you about a white paper that I read again. And it was WGSN's 2025 Consumer Report. Do you guys know what WGSN is?
I don't. Please tell me.
Us.
So they are the Worth Global Style Network. They are the leading consumer and product design like projector. So they're based out of New York and London, and their whole job is to put science to trends and to figure out like how to even conglomerate and understand what's coming / why what's happening is happening. So they're a really great resource. They have a lot of free podcasts. They have a lot of free white papers. I highly recommend diving into them because everything that I was finding was utterly fascinating.
Wonderful.
But I wanted to project a couple years ahead. We're obviously in 2023 right now, but we're looking at 2025 in this report. So they recognized and defined 4 different consumer groups, which I think we will all like ascribe ourselves to, or we'll know someone who ascribes to it really well. So they're the new nihilists, the reductionists, the timekeepers, and the pioneers. And just to give you like quick bullet points, the new nihilists are the ones that are overwhelmed by global problems and have lost faith in society. They're contemplative, they're nonconformist, they're alternative, they're seeking meaning. And what's funny is they're 55% of this group are millennials in their 30s.
I could see that.
Yep.
They're like, I've seen enough of the
And
wrong of the world.
Yeah. But what they're yearning for is honesty, authenticity, and humor. So they're trying to find the like dark humor aspect to the world that's going to give them meaning almost. The reductionists are trying to shrink their interactions to a more human scale. They're busy, they're value driven, they are community focused, they're seeking connection. And what they want is that human connection. They want human touch and storytelling and the feeling that their values align with the people that they're either buying product from, that they're interacting with, and that they're working with. The timekeepers are, time is the most important and valuable resource to them. And they want to do more than just spend it. They want to invest in things that will make the time that they spend richer. So they are discerning, Epicurean, which, do you guys know what Epicurean means? This was new to me. Like I knew what it was.
If you don't know,
It was
positive
like,
I
in my mind,
know.
Epicurean was like, oh, you're just posh. But no. It comes from a Greek philosopher, Epicurus, and it's you're devoted to sensual pleasures like food or design or drink.
Yeah. Okay.
So
All found me.
Epicurean.
Epicurean.
That
Thank
is-
you for my word.
Kara Rude.
Epicurean. Wikipedia me.
They're age agnostic, so they have friends with multiple like disciplines, multiple age groups, and they're seeking enrichment. What's funny is that this group actually reacted really heavily to our 2020 Teams meetings. And that, I don't know if you guys know this stat, but I was shocked and I wanted to throw up, but 252% more time was spent in weekly meetings in 2022 versus 2020.
I believe it.
252% more time in only Microsoft Teams meetings. That's not counting Zoom. That's not counting Google Meet. That's not counting any of the other bajillion formats out there.
FaceTime.
Wow.
Like, it's shocking. So this group, they want freedom and flexibility, and they want to indulge in all those
don't we?
those rich senses, those Epicurean senses. Man, I think we found Kara.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hold back.
No, it's beautiful. The last group are the pioneers. These are the people who are embracing the age that we're in. They are the movers and shakers, the opportunity makers, and they thrive on the change and the new ideas. They thrive on the idea of AI. They thrive on the social connection and almost the social contagion that society has given them. They are entrepreneurial. They are mercurial. changeable, unpredictable, lively. They're risk takers. They're seeking inspiration. 19% of this group has actually purchased virtual goods in the metaverse. 19% of this. That. It's intense. Like, what they want is they want to be inspired by new ideas and smart designs to connect the physical world to the virtual world. So
I must know, now that we know what I am, what are you guys?
That's my next question. Melissa, was anything in there like vibing with you?
All of it?
The metaverse is vibing with you?
Can I be a balance of some of each one?
Yeah, pick your top two.
The first two.
The first two, the new nihilists and the reductionists.
I can see that.
Genuinely, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
With the meetings.
Oh, yeah, but with the timekeepers. Ugh.
Come on, girl. What are you?
Genuinely, I think I'm a reductionist. Like, I don't want to talk to you via text. I want to like have a quick phone call. I want to spend human time with you. Like, I don't like the whole like trends and the really like heavy pushing product.
I can see that.
But
you're very
like,
Audrey Hepburn right now. Or like beautiful
I thought
librarian.
we were going sexy librarian.
Yeah, that was it. I was gonna. Why did I redact sexy? I'm sorry for lying.
I like sexy. It's
it
fine.
is sexy librarian right now for sure.
So we have obviously like defined who we think we are, but which of these new consumers sound the most intimidating to serve in the design world?
Those that are in the metaverse.
The metaverse people?
Yeah, I need to take a little bit more time personally to learn about this metaverse. I definitely think that all of them are important though, because we all need the balance. So we can't lean on one over the other. So whatever trend is coming in 2025, please hit us all.
Kara, which one sounds most intimidating to you?
I mean, that was my first reaction. It really was. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to bandwagon right now, but I think it's more so because, you know, it feels like a chase of novelty and that is almost against my own personal morality when it comes to creation in this world, that it's not about the new, you know, it's about like quality over volume. So it might be, hence the wabi-sabi comment, right? So I would say that, pushing myself to understand them enough to do them service, because that is our job, right? We don't reflect our own personal desires and wants. We use our education to reflect those that we serve. So I think that one would probably be the hardest.
I agree.
I'm going to be different.
Do it.
Genuinely, I think the new nihilists are the most intimidating to me. Because nihilism is like nothing matters anymore. Like I don't care. I can't trust anything. And like the fact that I could have a consumer, I could have a client who basically, if I present something, they're like, doesn't matter.
When you have a client?
When I have a client, excuse me. In 2025, when I have the new nihilist as my client.
Or when you have a teenager.
Or when my husband is the new nihilist.
Sure.
Ditto.
But like the fact that I would have to justify everything to them, like it almost seems that the pioneers are the easiest, because I could show them a trend, I could show them a new concept, and they'd be all about it. They'd be like, yes, give me the newest product. Give me that thing that makes me uncomfortable. Tell me that half of my building is going to be in the metaverse and that's going to be worth my investment. That's almost easier. Because then again, that goes back to that like
creation.
Well, it's going back to that. It's easier for my brain to follow these design trends rather than dealing with these nihilists who are like, prove it to me. Make it worth my time.
And I think like I like the prove, you know, because I'm like, let's make this decision larger than the pendulum swing of our society.
Yeah.
And so like we spoke earlier today on science-based, you know, evidence-based design. And I think that when it comes to, there's a few roadmaps, you know, we have LEED, we have so many different registrations that can lead a built environment into a more purposed movement, that I think that to me, it feels safer, like in longevity.
Yeah. It's more known, maybe.
Yes.
I mean, the metaverse is terrifying, just in my perspective.
Absolutely. And I think that more so, it's like, I just want to know that there's a purpose for it. And I don't want to feel like it's been created as a crutch for those who have had the society as we know it fail them. And I'm sorry that might be
is a hot take.
You know, I apologize, but like,
No,
you
no
know, if you're
apologies here.
saying that like the physical world has not provided you with what it needs, then like society as a whole, which we understand is broken in many aspects, has really like forced people to create an alternate reality.
Well, hasn't humanity always done that though?
Yes.
Has it?
Yeah, think about fiction. The first time a novel was written, a fiction novel, was Robinson Crusoe. It was the first like fake book that people would read for the enjoyment of the escape.
The escape.
Yeah.
The alternate reality.
People have always
it's
wanted
true.
that.
We just have technology that highlights it at such
We
a
just
larger
have
level now.
AI and, you know, fake, what are those, like the Google
Glasses.
yeah.
Google Glass.
It's
I
like
mean-
more intrusive now.
Right. But I mean, I guess there is a mentality of like, okay, so it's not a crutch, it's a choice. You know, we all choose where we invest. But man, it is personally, it's hard to invest in something I can't tangibly touch. As a sensual person, I think, see, we've claimed who I am.
The Epicurean part of you, you're like, I need to like feel it in my soul, in my stomach.
Let me taste it. Let me do all my senses.
I think that on the choice, we also have a responsibility, right? For those that can't make choices, right? For trends that are going to be affecting. And I say that with all passion to the fact that we are in a sustainable push as a nation and a community trying to be more responsible with what we have and our resources. So if we could push a little positivity on those trend makers, that whatever we decide to invest in, that it's going to be less harmful to our environment than other things that we've invested in previously. And I also think that having something to do with balancing out those extremists, right? I feel like we almost have your first one and your last one.
They're polar opposites.
Polar opposites.
Absolutely.
And I think another reason why our communities are in that escape realm is because they're in the middle and they're just drowning out the noise. So we need to give more compassion and voice to those middle roads.
Oof.
Babe, I'm like
That's
getting
beautiful.
emotional. Seriously.
How do we discern between a timeless rule, like make it Greek, the golden ratio, versus a passing fad, like a 70s avocado green kitchen?
Your red kitchen.
Your red kitchen.
Right. Or gray walls everywhere.
Ooh, that really cold gray that made everyone be like, I feel ice cold in this house.
Right. I think if it's grounded in function, it's going to have longevity. I'm just going to call out our current black on black on black on black. I would just say that there's going to be a pendulum swing away from that where people are going to be like, wow, that absorbs so much light and heat. My utility bill is larger and I'm paying more money and that's less efficient. Wow, my eye strain compared to like the white screen or paper that I'm looking at. Like black is, you can already start to see it. You know, today, literally before this podcast, we were all comparing manicures and looking at our nails and we're like, opaly and like, you know,
Peachy. And,
and like, yeah, like beige on beige on beige. And that's coming in response to the pendulum swing of like paint it black, you know? And so I think that's what separates a timeless rule. I'm going to bring it to furniture for the opposition of the fad is, you know, a chaise lounge was invented because, you know, they saw the ergonomics of a body and we will always have knees and we will always need some lumbar support. So they shaped a chair that will address both of those. So you don't have to lay on a flat couch and put a pillow under your knees or a pillow over your head. And so, you know, or the Eames lounge chair, like we all know that like recliners are ugly as hell. Like we hate look of a lazy boy. But you know why that wins? Because function
Comfort.
has won. And so Eames was like, how can I make this look like you're sitting in sexy pillows wrapped in like a fucking hot looking wood veneer, you know? And so these pieces have become timeless because they said function first. And how do we also then make it sexy?
I'd say quality too. It can't, let's just be real. It can't be timeless if it falls apart.
That's true. Because then you forget about it because you threw it away.
Yeah.
Truth.
And no one wants that stuff. So I would say with function being, I agree, the number one reason anything can be timeless, it needs to last. And that goes from furniture to clothing to just the way that your own aesthetic plays in your day-to-day life. Like if it's timeless to you, that doesn't mean it has to be timeless to the next person, right? Like really owning what your timeless is.
Yeah. So one of the things that I found while I was researching that I thought really vibrated with my soul was design ethos, which was a specifically laid out design principles by Dieter Rams. And there's 10 points that he thinks makes good design. And he ascribed this to product design. He ascribed this to interiors. It's kind of just like in something you'd learn in school. So he said, good design is innovative, makes products useful, is aesthetic, which is going to vibe with all of our Gen Zers and Gen Alphas, makes product understandable, is unobtrusive, is honest. And by what he means honest, it's like that a product is not more innovative than it looks. And it's not,
That's a good point.
it's not harder to use than it looks. So it's that it's honest about what it is. It's long lasting, is thorough down to the last detail, is environmentally friendly, and is as little as possible. Less, but better.
I like
Last one.
Plus, I like the name Dieter.
Dieter is a
Who
great
doesn't
name.
like Dieters?
But like the ones that I found a little shocking, not shocking, but like that vibed with me more than I thought they would was the honesty part. It's the idea that like, it's not trying to be something it's not.
Wood
Yes.
is wood.
Wood is
Yeah,
wood.
values
That's
are
the
important.
hardest one. Everyone's like, wood grain is actually everything. You'll never know.
I always love when I hear human values are non-negotiables. So
Ooh,
that
yeah.
definitely speaks to those core values that we always harp on. Real. Make it real.
Which of the things that I said, and I can like share my little list with you, which one vibes with your soul the most?
Oh man, the last one.
The last one, less is more,
For
or less is
sure.
better.
I mean, and I guess it brings me back to like my Portland days of like urban growth boundary, you know? And isn't it interesting that in metropolitan areas, we have embraced as a humanity that it is quality over quantity. And the innovation that happens in small spaces, you know, I mean, you can see it in cinema, you know, you can see it in precedent, the tiny house like epidemic. But I feel like whenever you have more, which we live in a state that is vast and feels like copious in resource, that you respect it less. You know, it's the scarcity that makes you aware. And like, I think if I could have one thing be really permeable and almost like become the trend, is that everything has an intrinsic urban growth boundary. Like just because there's space, you shouldn't have to fill it. Like let us feel the density versus past that threshold, the threshold of the vast, you know? I want to feel that contrast and I don't want to fill it because you should only fill it because there is like a purposed reason for it.
I'd have to say the one that my heart leans towards would be thorough down to the last detail. And I'm really one that loves a design that allows art and science to blend together and really encapsulates
good at that.
all of the senses, not just one or two, but all of them. And I think that's hard to do for one. So if it's done successfully, yes. But that's definitely one that's my goal every time.
If you could take one of these design trends and make the world use it, what would you use? What would you say it is forbidden to have anyone not use this?
You mean which trend would we turn timeless?
Exactly. Make your new timeless trend. What would it be?
Can we just say like upcycling and reuse, you know? Can we just
Let's
say
hear it,
that,
yeah.
I mean, maybe we have touched enough resources to date that we don't have to mine any more raw ones, that we could just use what we've already produced from. because I think that's where the true innovation comes from. It was like 2014. I was on a junk boat, like just outside Hanoi with a girlfriend. And, we took this tour and we were on kayaks. And, we were floating around all of these islands of trash. And, we're trying to like enjoy this natural beauty. And there was no way that we could actually you can't avoid it, And I think it's easy in a Western society, that's like a decade ago, right? But it's easy in a Western society or in a place as vast and feels as untouched. I mean, you guys, there's bears in my backyard that come up from the creek, right? That feels vast and wild and untouched. But the truth of the matter is we've touched enough. Like we have. And so if it could be very posh and trendy to not reproduce anything from a raw, but only from a reuse standpoint, I think that we would be doing future generations a great good.
I'm going to harken back to my grandma.
Go grandma.
Storytelling.
That's,
I want
you would make the
everything
world
to have a story and a rhyme and a reason. I want to know where it came from and where it's going.
I think that from what I've experienced is trends come and go. And it's easy enough to say that things are going to be aesthetic. They're going to be maximalist. They're going to be minimalist. They're going to be wabi-sabi. I think that it's important for you as a designer or you as a client or you as a person who has a home and you want your home to reflect you. It's that it's authentic to your purpose and to your goal. And that from that you pick those things that are going to vibe with your soul, whether that is a monster on the wall or whether that is a perfectly pristine Japanese design that you have a feng shui consultant like
those feng shuis.
As long as you are authentic in your design and in your purpose, whether you're a consumer that is over everything, trying to get rid of everything, or is ready to embrace the metaverse, I think be authentic to yourself
I love it.
Is what I would want the world to take away.
Word.
It's a perfect blend.
Go team, go.
I like that saying. That and living the dream.
Living the dream. Every day's a holiday, every meal's a feast.
Oh man, you guys don't know how authentic that was of her to say.
Every day, every single day.
You're like, hey Casey, how's it going? Every morning, and guess what we get?
Living the dream. Every day is a holiday, every meal's a feast. Anyway. Well, we thank everyone for joining us. We had really a lot of fun diving into this very nuanced topic. There's lots that we could have said. There's more that we could dive into. Maybe something that we continue to talk about as trends change and as consumers evolve. But we're so thankful that you guys joined in with us. Again, we are Complementary Colors with our amazing Kara Rude and Melissa Pribble. And again, I'm Casey Key, and we can't wait to talk to you next time about more of our design culture and the ins and outs of our world.
Go live your dream.
Go live your dream.
Peace.
Complementary Colors is a production of MCG Explore Design, an architecture and interior design firm located in beautiful Anchorage, Alaska. If you'd like to hear more future episodes, be sure to subscribe to Complementary Colors wherever you find podcasts.